What's up, guys? Another week in crypto, another week full of news, a lot of which we have to go over today. Some pretty exciting stuff. A lot of people still built in the space, more dots being connected, more plumbing being built out, more regulation happening. So I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen and get started with the first big piece of news. Guys, Japan just made it a law to recognize crypto as financial assets, right? And this is one of the biggest stories of the week. So they basically passed this legislation that reclassifies crypto from being regulated primarily as payment instruments versus being treated as financial assets under its financial markets framework. And it really is a major shift because Japan's one of the world's largest economies, and how they view crypto really matters. So let's talk about what's actually changing. So previously, crypto in Japan was regulated mainly under the Payment as a Service Act, which is something you can use to make payments. But now it's moving under financial markets legislation alongside of traditional investment products, their stocks, their bonds, and their other assets. So that means that crypto is increasingly being treated like an investment asset rather than just a means of payment. This matters for a few reasons. One, the one we all are waiting on to pump our bags, institutional adoption. So like these large financial institutions, asset managers, and banks, they generally prefer operating within familiar financial regulations. And the clearer the legal framework, the easier it becomes for institutions to launch products and allocate capital, right? And Japan's a little different than the US. They're a little bit more of a stickler when it comes to that kind of stuff. It also creates a pathway for crypto ETFs in Japan, right? Japan hasn't approved the spot Bitcoin ETF yet. But by moving crypto into the financial asset category, lawmakers have removed a major legal hurdle, and they can now develop this framework for crypto ETFs to basically happen in the future. And obviously, to have a spot Bitcoin ETF, just like here in the States, it requires the ETF custodian to hold a lot of Bitcoin so they can fill the orders. So it's going to take more Bitcoin off the market, which is good for price. And then another thing is they're going to have it's going to offer better investor protection. So the legislation, in addition to them just recognizing it as a financial asset, they're going to have insider trading rules to go along with it, stronger disclosure requirements, and then tougher penalties for illegal operators. And, those are already the things that everyone expects in equity markets. So, and then another big one, Kris, you'll like this one, potentially a huge tax reform, right? So one of the biggest pain points for Japanese crypto investors has been taxes. Crypto gains taxes over there has been taxed at rates of up to 55%. And the government has also approved a framework that could reduce that to a flat 20. So that's more than a 50% haircut, around a 50% haircut, give or take. Although the lower rate is expected to come in later, but better late than never. So if implemented, that's going to be a huge incentive for both retail and institutional participation. So now you're probably wondering, like, okay, this happened in Japan. Why should I care if I'm here in America or in the UK or Australia or wherever you're at? Those are all the accents I can think of off the top of my head. So first reason is that Japan has always been one of crypto's most important markets, right? It was one of the first countries to regulate Bitcoin exchanges after the Mt. Gox collapse, right? And is known for taking cautious but structured approaches. So when Japan changes its regulatory stance, other jurisdictions often pay attention, just like when they move their interest rates up and down. Like we talked about a few weeks ago, how the world was looking at them for raising their rates to a 32-year high. I think it's like around 1.5%. So my personal takeaway, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, Kris, is that it is good, but I wouldn't say it's like immediately bullish because it doesn't create new demand overnight. But I do think that, while we're waiting on the Clarity Act to pass, more on that later, it does reduce regulatory uncertainty in it. And I think it makes crypto easier for traditional financial institutions to participate in, and just moves the asset class another step towards being a part of the mainstream financial system. So let's go Japan. Kris, you got any thoughts on that?
No, I think it's a good step in the right direction. I'm just curious if it's going to change anything with the Clarity Act now that that's been passed. So that's something I'm curious about.
Yeah. Another thing, this is, this isn't like crazy news, but it's good. Robinhood chain, they launched on July 1st. We've been covering that pretty much every week. We talked about how their DEX volume hit an all-time high last week, and talked about a few meme coins. We wrote an in-depth Substack article visit No Doubts on Substack to see how we compare the Robinhood chain to the base network and who we think is going to win and all that. MetaMask just integrated into Robinhood chain, and that's really good because MetaMask is like the most popular wallet. So you can kind of think of it as, think of like a popular place like Hawaii, right? Imagine if they built a bridge you can drive to from Hawaii to California. More people will be going there because it's easier now, because people can just drive straight across the bridge versus having to book a plane ticket and fly. So I think it's good that the largest wallet you can now use right on Robinhood chain. And now you can just go into your MetaMask, click the RPC and connect to the Robinhood chain, and then just bridge right on over. Chris, I know you've been playing around with the Hood chain, farming some meme coins. You got any new updates or thoughts around that?
Well, the biggest thing really on Robinhood chain, meme coins had a moment. A lot of them aren't even lasting like 36 hours right now. So it's a very tough thing to do for the meme coins. But I did dig deep into the math behind the Robinhood chain and the Arbitrum today. And so all of the chains that Robinhood as an organization makes, all the fees, 10% of that goes over to the Arbitrum. And the way it's given to the Arbitrum is 8% of the fees go directly to the Arbitrum DAO treasury. And then the other 2% goes to the Arbitrum Developers Guild. And they're not buying ARB tokens with that money. So it's not having a direct impact on like a buy and burn would for hype or for lit or anything like that. It's going as a stable coin into the Arbitrum DAO's treasury. Now that there's a income coming into the Arbitrum DAO, which was a big question for a lot of years, now the people that hold ARB tokens finally get to vote on something worth voting on, and they can decide how to use those funds. But just to give you an idea, launch day was over $550 million worth of volume on Robinhood. The fees collected on that launch day was 147,000. So 500 million volume created 147,000 in fees. Of that, 14,700 went to Arbitrum. And then 80% of that went into the Arbitrum DAO treasury. The other 20% went to the developers. So we're talking $2,800 went over to the developers. The rest went to the Arbitrum DAO treasury. It's not as much income into Arbitrum DAO as everybody in media played it up to be. Because getting $550 million worth of volume is great for launch day. Everybody's excited, but it's already come down off of that substantially. Another point on that is that Rabby had the integration with Robinhood chain before MetaMask did. So Rabby is the number 2 wallet. I just wanted to put that one out there. And then lastly, they're talking about the difference between trading on Hyperliquid versus the reason why Robinhood built their own chain to begin with was to trade. So they stole the idea from Hyperliquid in saying, well, we're going to have our own chain for trading. And now they do. It's not a layer 1, though. It's a layer 2. So they added some risk because what if Arbitrum shuts down? Like, what are they going to do? But regardless, people are starting to pull some money out of Hyperliquid or some support out of Hyperliquid because they think that Robinhood, or they're gambling, they're prospecting, investing, whatever you want to call it, that Robinhood may start taking over some more volume and start creeping up to what Hyperliquid's able to do. And then to complete that competition picture, you also have Lighter. It's growing as well, and they just adopted the buy and burn token for Hype. So for their token for Lit. So they're both performing the same in that manner now. For a long time, Hype was doing much better supporting their token price than Lit did, but now they're doing the same model. One more wrinkle was that Solana just launched another perp exchange as well called JTX, direct competition for all of these. So they're, not to mention, Binance has Aster. So all of these perpetual exchanges are now vying, like, what's the best UI, what's the best latency, what's the best throughput, best volume, best fee structure for traders. And that is still in the air right now. So Robinhood could be good, could be bad. We're waiting to see. It's too new. There's not enough on it right here that is not meme coins. So
very great assessment. I do find it interesting that Robinhood is very well capitalized, and they didn't go to build their own chain, especially after seeing Coinbase migrate from the super chain tech stack. I thought that was pretty interesting.
yep, very true.
Yeah, and that's a good breakdown on what Arbitrum, peel back behind the curtain on how Arbitrum is benefiting from it. 14 grand ain't nothing.
Nope, it's not. That's like 2 developers' salaries for a month.
Yeah, man, these layer twos are gonna have to figure something out, man, because it's just like after hearing that and understanding that, I'm not buying the Arbitrum token, So
Yeah, the Arbitrum token went up and then came right back down. I mean, there's nothing stabilizing that price.
do you see them doing anything in the future to be able to like capture more value from projects building on them, or do you think it's just more of a volume game? They just need to have as many people build on them as possible.
Yeah, right now I think it's volume, because Hyperliquid also runs on Arbitrum for bridges and their native liquidity, even though Hyperliquid is a L1. So without Arbitrum, Hyperliquid wouldn't have worked.
Interesting.
Yeah, their main bridge, even in their chain documentation, says take funds from Arbitrum and go through the bridge to get into Hype.
Sounds like Arbitrum needs a better BD guy, is what I'm hearing here.
That, and they need to, like, what they could do is they could have architected a solution to make it to where, like, the gas tokens that are burnt actually go to ARB validators instead of going through Robinhood, just burning ETH on Robinhood.
They should have had Arbitrum as the gas token as well.
That would have really helped. So
as I think Optimism, I forgot which one launched first, Optimism or Arbitrum, but they kind of started doing that. But Polygon, they have it so that Matic is the gas token, which is, it's smart.
That's true, but nobody's on Polygon. There were so few people on Polygon that most of the developers left, and when they started having latency at the validator levels and things were freezing, they didn't have any developers left. Like, it was just stuck. So
it's like a ghost town.
Yep.
Let's start going through some of the charts here.
Cool. Sorry to derail, but I think that was a great conversation.
No, that was a great conversation. That was good. So if we look at the central bank, I was asking questions too, so it's not like I was rushing you off. I was engaged. If we look at the central bank balance sheet, everything still looks the same. We're still printing money. That thing is starting to look like a firework. Gold is still just dropping like a rock. Man, I don't know how low you think gold's gonna go. You think we're gonna go back down to the $34.47 level? That's the most recent support level, other than the one that it's at right now, and that's not even crazy support. It was like here for like a couple weeks.
Yeah, I actually heard a couple gold analysts say 34.50.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. That's the next major support level. This is around the $34.50 level, and then before that, we're looking at 27.40. So yeah, we'll just keep looking at this week by week. We got oil coming back up. It seems like the conflict over there it'll be a conflict, then it gets solved. Then it's a conflict again, then it gets solved. It's kind of just like the Clarity Act. It seems like they go back and forth. It makes me think it's maybe just some kind of distraction or a facade. I don't know. If we look at the S&P, still consolidating around all-time high levels, same with the Dow, same with the NASDAQ. We are in a midterm year, so it'd be interesting to see how all these charts are going to look Q1 next year, late Q4 of this year. And then if we look at Bitcoin, we are still consolidating around the 63 level. I just want us to stay above 60K. If we start closing below 60K, that makes me think we're going to go down to 50, because that's the next major support level. So we're consolidating near the 2021 and 2022 all-time high levels, as well as the mid 2024. So that's good. I still think it's in the cards for us to go down to 50. There's been a lot of talk about the Clarity Act, supposedly getting done here in the next week or two. And they're saying if it doesn't happen then, and I think, Chris, you said this months ago, if it doesn't happen then, we're going to have to wait towards like the end of the year or next year. You got any updated thoughts on that?
No, the biggest push was actually get it done before summer started, and that didn't happen. So now I'm going to be very surprised if it does get pushed. I mean, if it does stay center focus, if we go longer than August, because politicians got to be thinking about their reelection.
Yeah, that's a good point. On a better note, ETH has been pumping a little bit for the past 3 weeks in a row we've had a month, pretty much a month straight. ETH has been pumping. I'm going to be putting out a DeFi saver strategy that I am deploying and working on right now. But even still, we could very easily come back up to the 2K level and bounce off of this trend line. We really want to get over this trend line and turn this into support. And then we still got our 62 and our 200-day just come and crash and right on down, just like it did right here. So we're nowhere near out of the weeds yet, but in the grand scheme of things, this is still a great place to buy ETH. And I just wanted to point out and look at the ETH BTC ratio because we haven't looked at it in a while. This thing's trending down, even though the past couple of weeks it's been going up, still trending downward. So, we always talk about how ETH is a utility and Bitcoin is a store of value. And I just think it's crazy that even with all the developments happening on ETH, even with Arbitrum being built on ETH, and now Robinhood chain is built on Arbitrum, which is built on ETH, it still isn't enough to get ETH over the hump. So yeah, we just gotta kind of just stay patient, keep farming. Speaking of, has Hype still been your best farms of the week, Kris, or has anything else been kind of still in the spotlight?
Actually, no. Hype was dethroned this week in my farms. The one that popped above it in earnings per day has actually been Sky.
Okay, that's on mainnet.
That's on mainnet. Sky is a governance token for MakerDAO. So they've been doing a really good job supporting the price of their token. It was out of range for about 8 weeks. I didn't move my range and I didn't earn anything for those 8 weeks. But then all of a sudden it went right back into my range without me moving it. So I didn't lock in any loss. And here I am making 0.4% a day.
I'm surprised. What made you not move it for 8 weeks and not center row it or something?
Because it kept getting close. I was like, oh, it's just like a 1% away. I'm not going to burn ETH and reposition for 1%. And it just the bottom of my range apparently was very strong resistance. I nailed that right on the head.
Dang. You have your 6-hour rule, so that's why I'm so surprised that you let it stay there for so long.
Yeah, it's also a smaller position. It was more like a concept position for me. So, but if it goes out the top of my range, which is literally just going from where it is right now at 6 cents up to 8 cents, it erases all drawdown and impermanent loss that was ever in that pool. So
other than your Sky pool, any other good pools worth highlighting?
Actually, there is one on Robinhood that is actually performing very well. It's Ethereum to USDG, the Paxos global dollar. The official stablecoin of Robinhood is not Circle, it's not Tether, it's Paxos, it's USDG. So their main Ethereum USDG pool that's over at Uniswap right now is doing about 125 million of volume on about 3 million liquidity. So I have a $250 range over there, and it's fluctuating between 60 and 105%, which for an ETH farm is really, really good.
Yeah. And are you like, I haven't played around on the DEXs over there yet. I plan on looking into that today / this weekend. Are you staking over there like how you do on Aerodrome, or are you just earning the trading fees?
Well, they're on Uniswap, so we're just getting trading fees. They don't. Right. Over 90% of liquidity for the whole chain is sitting with Uniswap right now.
Got you. And is Uniswap still doing their Uni chain, or they just kind of give up on that?
It's still there, but and they're still offering incentives for people to farm on Uni chain, but I don't see anybody mentioning it.
Dude, it's like their whole thing was like, we want to eliminate liquidity fragmentation, but fuck where all the liquidity is. Just come here, we'll fragment it everywhere else.
Yeah, exactly. What I was paying more attention to was how much ground that Aerodrome is going to be making up towards reaching a TVL that would equal or surpass Uniswap. But it's a factor of 10 at this point. So once Aerodrome combines Velodrome, they're going to have about 330 million TVL.
Love that I'm on DeFi Llama and you still have protocols in the 1 billion TVL all the way down to number 38. I remember the day when it was only like not even the top 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Uniswap is 3.1 billion. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I now that Aerodrome is becoming native to Ethereum, they can directly compete for the most of the liquidity because there's so much liquidity on Ethereum mainnet that hasn't gone to any other DEX. It just got stood up on Uniswap, and that's where it's at. Well, now they have a solid operating choice of moving to Aerodrome if they want.
Man, do you think Aerodrome is going to pass Uniswap?
I think what Aerodrome has working for them is that anybody can offer incentives on any liquidity pool by staking and voting for the pools.
Yeah, but Uniswap has their hooks where they can kind of do something like that too. But it just seems like people aren't utilizing the hooks, huh?
No, they made it sound like hooks were the greatest thing since sliced bread, but they're actually pretty complicated. Like unless you're a dedicated developer that's making like a liquidity provisioning tool that you want to do something with it, you can't just say, hey, turn on this option for this hook. Like you have to actually program in the hook to do things. Which
Yeah.
makes it harder for just the general user versus Aerodrome. Anybody can go start a farm over there, get some free arrow for farming, stake it, and go vote. Like it just takes money and time. You don't have to know any programming language.
Yeah, how I thought what the hook initiative was going to play out was that developers were going to create a bunch of hooks for people to use easily. I kind of looked at it as like an app store where people develop the apps and then people can just come use the apps without having to know how to code, obviously. But that just never happened, man. It never happened, and I'm genuinely surprised that it didn't, especially given the fact that Uniswap is still the top DEX in terms of TVL. Like if I'm a developer, I'm gonna go make some hooks so that people can easily use them, like custom fee tiers, whatever, limit order strategies. But no one did anything. I just wonder why.
Yeah, if I was a pure developer, I would go and create some hooks that worked with an AI agent. And then that way, if anybody decides to plug into my MCP for liquidity providing, because it would be the best one, if anybody used it, then the hooks would do its job and you get some extra fees out of it.
Guys, this is another great episode. If you got value, like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend. Let us know in the comments if there's anything else you want us to cover. Let us know relevant news that we might be missing. But other than that, we'll see you guys next week for the next one. Take care and trade safe.
Sounds great.